Hello everybody, welcome back to the garden. I hope you're having a wonderful day. In today's episode, we're going to be working through some of the problems that we're having with our tomato seedlings. I've kind of underestimated how hard it would be growing in a temporary location. We're not growing where we normally grow our seedlings, and they're not in the most optimal conditions. And we also left them outside. I think it was like 5 or 6 days ago when we had very, very cold weather too. So they're also struggling because of that. So in today's episode, I'm going to be changing over some of the potting situations with them. We're going to go from our normal cups with the holes in the middle to a air pruning pot. So I'm going to be putting netting around the bottom of that pot. That way we get really good drainage. I can water them exactly when they need to. I'm not going to have any water pooling up in the bottom of the cup because I think that's kind of adding to our problem. And then I'm also going to be adding some mycorrhizal fungi to the root systems of some of these tomatoes that we're transplanting over. That was sent to me from Earthman Living Soil. I will have his link in the description below. He does all sorts of KNF or Korean natural farming, indigenous microorganisms, and different mycorrhizal supplements that you can give to your plants and give to your soil to really create a living soil that your plants really love. I'll talk more about the mycorrhizal fungi when I apply it to the plants. Let's take a look at what I'm dealing with right now. I'm kind of ashamed of it, but I think they'll be okay. This is why we plant more seedlings than we actually need out in the garden, because mistakes that we make as gardeners, which I've made my fair share this year, that's for sure. All right, let's look at these tomato plants. So these ones aren't doing too bad. They are still kind of folding upright because I think this light is too bright, or it's just not, I don't know. It's a 1,000-watt grow light. And here we've got the blooming lights on, which I normally have on. I had it real close, but it started to burn them a little bit, so I brought it further away. And the leaves have not folded down yet. Usually that's a sign that they're getting a ton of light, so they're folding up because of that. I don't think the light is the issue. What was the issue is, like, these ones here were really tiny, except for the couple that were nice and strong, stood up well. But the smaller ones that I have over here kind of got frozen. You can see around the bottom of that stem there, see how it's indented a little bit right there? Basically the cells or the structure of that plant kind of burst when it got too cold. So a lot of these ones had died. These ones will be okay for the most part, especially once I get them outside. These are going to be in optimal shape. They're not doing horrible, but we've just got to get them outside. It's going to be a couple of weeks till we can do that. So I think next year I'm going to hold off a little bit later than I should. That way I don't have any of these problems. I'd rather put a younger, healthy seedling out than an older one that's struggling. But what I'm going to do to fill in these cups that have dead tomatoes is by placing these in here. All of these are doing really healthy because these have been growing inside and were not brought out into the cold on accident or left out in the cold during a really, really cold night. So they're all doing well. We're going to bury these nice and deep into the next cup. And what we're going to be doing is this method of air pruning, where we've got a net around the bottom of the cup, just like we did with our zucchini. If you haven't checked out that video, I think I did a couple of days ago. It shows the difference between the zucchini that we had in the air pruning cup and the one that's in a regular cup. It's just unbelievable the difference that it made. So I'm going to do the same thing with my tomato plants, because with some of these tomatoes that I haven't watered for quite a long time, I can still feel moisture to my knuckle. So they're not draining quite as fast as I would like them to. So I think that's part of the reason why we're getting a little bit of yellowing around the edges, is over watering on these. So that air pruning pot is definitely going to help out with that. And then this stuff, this is the mycorrhizal fungi. That's called VAM. So it's for younger seedlings. You sprinkle it right on the roots. I'm going to be sprinkling this on the plants when I transplant them to give them a little bit of a boost. I'll talk about that right now as I get some of these transplanted. I'm mostly focused on the Cherokee Purple, which is an amazing heirloom variety that I've never grown before. So really focusing on getting some of those planted out and in as good of shape as possible so we can get some great harvest off of those this year. But all in all, I'm looking for about 3 plants of each variety: an early girl, Cherokee Purple, beefsteak, and then Roma. So we're slowly going to weed out the losers throughout the planting season and continue growing with the ones that we want to choose for our harvest. So this will be the first one of our Cherokee Purple that I'm going to transplant. I'm just going to peel off this peat moss container. That way I can expose the root system here to spread that mycorrhizal fungi all over it. If you're not familiar with mycorrhizal fungi, I will put it very simply, kind of in layman's terms for you guys, because I am not a master at it yet. I'm still learning a lot about it. I was kind of reintroduced to it through just watching a bunch of YouTube videos on gardening and growing vegetables. So what really happens and why this stuff is so important is that the soil that your plants are growing into have a very, very complex relationship with fungi. If you think about fungi, it's not just one small living organism. It's essentially like the largest living, or could be the largest living organism on the planet, because it's a whole system of living organisms that help feed nutrients or pull nutrients from one spot and bring them to another. And essentially all this fungi is living in a symbiotic relationship, for the most part, with all of our plants. So the whole idea between, again, in very simple terms, the whole idea behind inoculating your soil with mycorrhizal fungi is to feed your plants what they need. That all the microorganisms also help break down different materials in the soil so they are available for your plants to grow off of. So mycorrhizal fungi, if you're interested, do some more research. Check out the website Earthman Living Soil. I'll have the link down below, of course, for buying some of those IMOs if you would like to do that to inoculate your soils of your garden beds. So we've got a lot of this root system here exposed, and we're going to sprinkle some of that stuff around here. Just giving it a nice healthy sprinkle. Okay, we've got that sprinkled all around the roots there. And then I'm going to put it in our air pot. Again, when I transplant these, I'm going to be burying them deep. So instead of keeping it at the level it was before, I'm going to bring it all the way down to these stems here. That way that stem system can be used for roots to grow out of as soon as we put soil in there and start watering it. Here's our first one down in the air pot, and renamed it from the dead Roma tomato to the alive and well Cherokee Purple tomato seedling. So I think they will do a lot better in these air pots compared to just holes in the bottom. Again, it just allows a lot more oxygen in this whole system. And then with that taproot coming down, the whole idea behind air pots or air pruning pots, I don't want to get in too depth with it right now because I've talked about it a lot in the previous few videos, is that taproot comes down, and then as soon as it hits the air barrier, it essentially breaks off or stops growing, sends a signal throughout the entire root systems to start shooting out more and more roots. And that the end result of that is a very strong growing root mass instead of a root ball. So the air pots, I will let you guys know. I'll have an update, of course, on how they start growing after this point, because I've just had so much trouble with them this year, given all the different various circumstances that I already talked about. So I will update you guys on how they grow in these air pots, but I think they will be set. All right, I've got to get the rest of these potted up. We've got a ton of work to do, but before I go on to talk to you guys about everything that we have coming up, or so far that I have planned out this week, is we've got our potatoes that are about to be planted into 5-gallon buckets, because we are just about done with freezing nights outside. So we're gonna get those planted up. We got a bunch of new raspberries going into the ground. That will be happening later this week too. And then our curly Sue epiphyllum cacti are doing very well, and they need to be transplanted soon, so I'll have a video on transplanting them, and then just giving you guys an overall update on all of our houseplants during this transition phase while we're moving and buying our new home. So thank you guys all so much for watching today. I hope your gardening adventures are going well. I hope you're having fun out there no matter what circumstances you come upon, because gardening is such a great journey. No matter what we run into, you've always got to make fun out of it. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Happy gardening, and we'll see you in the next episode.